And you're watching Fox News. This is a Fox News alert. We've just been talking to Casey Stegall about a situation unfolding in Garland, Texas. All seems to be calm and quiet right now as police continue to conduct their investigation. Our Casey Stegall was reporting live from the scene there in Garland, Texas, where earlier this evening, two gunmen approached the Caldwell Center where a Muhammad art exhibit was going on. It was an exhibit for free speech, to defend free speech here in America. There were cartoon caricatures. It was a contest on cartoons about Muhammad. One person who won, according to Pam Geller, who is the organizer of that event, was a former Muslim. He won that event. And what unfolded towards the end of that event, as it was coming to a close, those two gunmen opened fire on a security officer, wounding him in the ankle. We are happy to report that he is alive and well and out of the hospital and cooperating with police to give them more details about it. And then the two gunmen who had been opening fire, they exchanged gunfire with the Garland Police Department, which had been on the scene in the event that something like this could possibly happen because of the nature of the free speech event in and of itself, involving Muhammad and cartoon caricatures of him. Well, having said all of that, those two gunmen are dead. Their bodies laying on the ground near the vehicle they were driving, as police used a robot to move in to determine if there were any incendiary devices in that car. And we understand through our reporting from Casey Stegall on the ground there in Garland, Texas, that he heard some sort of muzzled sound as if a detonation had taken place. That means they would possibly have removed it from the car and put it in a bomb containment unit and to detonate it. There were reports that perhaps the men were armed with some sort of grenade. We are continuing to wait for Casey Stegall to bring us more updates as the facts become available to him on the ground. But if you've been watching this all evening long, beginning with our coverage with Harris Faulkner talking about the breaking details, we have heard from Pam Geller, we've heard from Karen Pearson, who was inside the venue when it took place. She described for us earlier how a SWAT team member went in and informed the 200 people there that this was an active shooter situation, that the Caldwell Center would be locked down. And then he went on to explain that an officer had been shot. And now get this is how they reacted. They reacted by one person, according to her description, pulling out the American flag, waving it, and everyone going into a song of God Bless America, and then praying there on the spot for the officer who had been wounded, and obviously for the safety of Garland, Texas. Well, Casey Stegall has been on the ground following all the details. He joins us live now. I'm told that he's available now. And Casey, I find that to be remarkable how they responded in a time of travail or potential hazard to their own safety, and they decided to pray as well as sing God Bless America. And in light of this danger, they heroically did that. What are you hearing on the ground?
Yeah, Kelly, that is pretty powerful when you hear that, and this is a situation that is still very much fluid at this time, as we are now just after midnight here in Texas, and we just heard not long ago some type of a muffled explosion, what sounded like an explosion. Again, working to confirm the details on that in terms of whether or not an explosive device was found at the scene and that was detonated, and that's what we heard. That is something we're working to confirm. The Curtis Caldwell Center, where all of this is happening, is not terribly far just back that way. It would only take me a few minutes to walk there on foot, but the police have us pushed back a very large perimeter, in fact, all around the facility, as this is still very much an active crime scene, and they are still working with the bomb technicians and the bomb robots to not only inspect the two individuals who were killed, the two suspects who were killed by police officers tonight, but they're also using that robot to search the vehicle that they were riding in, the vehicle that they pulled up into the parking lot in and opened fire on a Garland Independent School District security officer, an unarmed man, and then police quickly engaged those two suspects once the gunfire erupted, and those suspects were killed by police here tonight. So very quick thinking on behalf of the Garland Police Department. We know from press conferences earlier this evening that because of the controversial nature of tonight's event, that they had a beefed up security presence and they had additional officers, additional boots on the ground, and it sounds like that quick thinking really ended this situation before any other innocent bystanders could get injured, because the shooting itself happened right around the time this event was going to be wrapping up. And Kelly, the police said some 200 people attended this event. Could you imagine if this would have happened as that event was letting out and everyone was leaving the facility to go to their cars? But the quick thinking from those Garland police officers tonight likely saved many more lives, Kelly.
Well, you know, fortunately, we don't have to think about that, because that was not the outcome, and that's a good thing. I think it's also good that Pam Geller, the organizer of this event, in her thinking and in forethought, actually had hired some security as well. So even the organizer was prepared for the possibility of someone not accepting the fact that she was organizing an event, controversial though it may be, but still organizing an event for defending free speech. And we should point out, or maybe you can point out for us, what happened in January, which precipitated this and instigated this and gave her the motivation to do this, to make a stand for America's freedom of speech.
Yeah, the Islamic community here in this country put together an event back in January. We were here. We covered it. It was at the exact same place, the Curtis Culwell Center, which is owned, interestingly, by the Garland Independent School District. So this community's school district owns the center, but they lease out the space to anyone who wants to hold events there and the like. And so this event was a Stand with the Prophet event, is what it was called. And they say that it was to combat Islamophobia, and that all people of the Muslim faith are not terrorists, and they were trying to dispel rumors and just to create some dialogues in this country. And so that event was held at the Curtis Culwell Center, and there was a very, very large protest that happened at that time. There were some controversial imams who came in from all over the country as keynote speakers at that event, and we saw a lot of people arrive and a lot of people show up, and they were very angry that the Islamic community was holding an event like this in Texas. There were threats made to that particular event, and fortunately we didn't see any violence there, but there was also a big controversy because it was at a center that was owned by the school district. They were making the argument of separation of church and state. However, the independent school district at the time said that they can't just turn people away. If someone is willing to lease the space, then they do that. So again, this event tonight was apparently, according to the organizer that you've been on the air with throughout the duration of the evening, Kelly, says that this event was sort of to counter what the Islamic community did here back in January, and then tonight we had this incredible wave of violence and tragedy in this tight-knit community, a northern suburb of Dallas.
And so here we are. As Bill Daley, the former FBI investigator, talked to us earlier, this is the new normal. As Waleed Perez, the terror expert here for us, and Fox News contributor, also stating this is the new normal. Or as Pam Geller said, this is the new normal. It has come to this, and Casey, as you continue to watch the developments here, we've heard of so many different reports. It could have been in Boston, it could have been at Fort Hood, but now tonight it's in Garland, Texas, and many people are wondering what, if anything, will happen next. From a law enforcement standpoint, what will the police have to do throughout the night, and then moving forward, to make sure that the people of Garland can return to as normal as they possibly can?
Well, first and foremost, Kelly, they have to obviously clear the crime scene, and they have to make sure that it is safe. And that's what we've been talking about with the work that's been done with the explosives, the technicians, and the bomb squads that are on the scene, because the police said they didn't have any specific evidence that led them to believe that there were explosive devices on scene here. But because of the nature of this attack, they wanted to err on the side of caution. So first and foremost, they're going to go through and make sure that there is no live grenades, or there is no backpacks containing explosives, anything like that. Once they clear that scene and they deem that it is safe for the other first responders to go in, as we said in some of our reporting tonight, the footprint of the crime scene will likely diminish, and that's when the medical examiners can get in there and remove the bodies of the two suspects that are still outside of the car. They can work on trying to get a positive ID on them, trying to figure out who these two men were, begin digging into their background and the rest. And then, as you know, Kelly, the crime scene will be processed. They will take all of the photos. They will do all of the shell casing collection, things like that. So a lot of work still to be done, and the police here telling us that this could go for several hours into the night as they make sure that all of the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, and that the community as a whole is no longer in danger. At this point, it feels like there is no real danger, as the police have again allowed us to come back to our camera positions. But yeah.
I want to ask you one final question as we get ready to close this out. I wanted to ask you, we had heard from Wally Ferris that Congressman Louis Gohmert may have been among the guests there, as well as some other dignitaries. And if that is the case, in addition to the free speech event that this was, it's also a high-profile kind of case because of someone high in politics being there as well. So it's something that the FBI and police will likely look at to see if this was also a motivating factor for these particular gunmen to strike at that time, getting close to the hour of most of those people leaving. And fortunately, it didn't happen that way. What do you hear?
And obviously that is all part. Well, that is all obviously part of what they're going to be looking into. Was this particular event targeted? Was anyone at this event a specific target? All of that information is what they have to start digging into. But at this point, we don't even know the identities, and the authorities don't even know the identities of these two men. It's still too dangerous for them to approach the vehicle to collect the bodies and begin the identification process. So a lot of unanswered questions at this hour, as police are first and foremost trying to make sure that everything is safe, and then all of the other details and the rest of the nitty-gritty, I think, will come out in the coming hours and days. Kelly.
Casey Stegall, always appreciate working with you, my friend. Good reporting tonight and keeping us updated throughout the evening. Here we are, ladies and gentlemen, a new normal. What happened in Garland, Texas, as Casey has reported throughout the evening. Two gunmen pulling up to a Muhammad art exhibit outside the Colwell Center, opening fire on a security officer. That security officer is alive and well, wounded only in the ankle. The Garland Police Department ready on the scene in case something happened because of the controversial nature and defense of free speech was unfolding tonight. They were there at the ready and took out those two gunmen. Their bodies still lay at the vehicle that they were driving as police moved in to try to determine if an incendiary device was in that car. As Bill Daley, the former FBI investigator, and Pam Geller, the organizer of tonight's event, as well as Wally Ferris, a terror expert, have determined, this is the new normal. This is what we are experiencing in America. But we still have the right to defend our freedom of speech. And as we saw this evening, or heard this evening, inside that venue, when they learned that an officer was down, what those people did was wave the American flag, sing God Bless America, and begin to pray. We end that tonight. We're going to go back to Stossel now, already in progress. I'm Kelly Wright. We thank you for joining us for this very special breaking news on Fox.